Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good
Hi there,
morning.
good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Barbara, and we're here starting a series of 2 webinars celebrating Women's Month. We would like to dedicate this month to stop and think about representativeness and how women are represented and valued and treasured in the world, personally and professionally. And the first one is going to be with these 2 amazing people here, Cintia Rodrigues and Bruna Caltabiano. And they will be talking about women and the workplace. Bruna is the academic director at Caltabiano Idiomas. She has a degree in psychology and holds Cambridge CPE and DELTA, having done her Module 3 on the ELT Management Specialism. She's interested in CPD, leadership and management, and entrepreneurship. She's the coordinator of BT LAMSIG. Hi, Bruna. Good morning. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So today, talking along with Bruna is Cintia. And Cintia Rodrigues is a pedagogical coordinator, a teacher trainer, and a Cambridge speaking examiner for 7 idiomas. She holds an MA in Applied Linguistics, a BE in Linguistics, a CELTA, and a CPE. She's also a founding member of Voices SIG. So thank you, the 2 of you, to be here with us. So the floor is yours.
Okay, the microphone is on because you guys, Thiago, you silenced me. Don't say that I should turn on my mic. That's something that you guys did. But it's fine. Hello, good morning. And it's how do I start that? I don't know.
Just say good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
That's it.
And go on.
It is just too early. I'm still like waking up. It's just like not too early to survive on a Sunday. But well, we're first of all, we're really glad for the invitation, and it was a great idea to connect with her because we both kind of do the same type of work in a certain way, and also we discussed lots of things together. And I think we had 2 presentations that were quite similar, so we decided to put it together. So hopefully you enjoy it. Should we share, or I would like to say something before?
That's
No,
okay.
you're fine.
You can start.
Good. So I'm gonna share screen. You won't be able to see our beautiful faces. Oh, I'm sorry about the slides. You know, Bruna usually has beautiful slides, but this time she was in TESOL in the United States, so I was supposed to do it myself, and I'm not as good as Marcelo is.
And because I don't have the slides, and Marcelo does. So
Yeah. So it is a little bit simpler than it usually is, but that's fine. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, women in the workplace, how gender roles may affect our performance, sense of recognition, and CPG. So when you first invited us, you asked us to talk about school things we do in a classroom and how to work with materials, how to involve this kind of topics in the classroom. But since I'm a little bit out of the classroom, I thought that talking about management issues would be more appropriate, and I would probably say better things about than the classroom itself, you know. So that's why I invited Bruna to come with me. Just a quick summary. So we'll start talking about gender performativity. I'll explain a little bit about it. Then we're going to go into sexism in the workplace, followed by family commitment, laws versus culture, fact and figures, and lots of some local and global actions and attitudes we could take to start changing the scenario we live in now. So just to start, I don't know if some of you have heard of Judith Butler, but she's one of the most important philosophers we have nowadays, and she's still alive, which is great. She talks both about politics, but also she's one of the most important names when we talk about gender issues. And she's the one who started talking about gender performativity. And what does that mean? According to Judith Butler, she keeps on debating this issue on which materiality of life is fully constructed. in relation to aspects of identity such as gender and sexuality. So for Butler, such apparently genetic aspects are always achieved through performative act that is constituting the identity it is asserted to be. What do I mean by that? The thing about it is that according to Butler, when you were born, people start, even like not even before you're born, when they're still in the belly, like during the pregnancy, people are, the moment they know you're a boy or you're a girl, they change the way they behave towards you. People do that, society does that in general. And of course, it changes a lot according to where you are. For example, if you go to Argentina, it is very common to see men kissing each other on the cheeks. So they usually kiss each other, something very, very common. And if men do the same thing in Brazil, they'll be perceived as gay sometimes or gayish, perhaps. So that wouldn't be that acceptable here as it is in Argentina, for example. So things change a lot according to the society we live in. And that influences basically everything we do in every single action we perform daily, because basically what we do in our daily life is to perform. We're performing masculinity, femininity, or neither of them, and then people try to fit you and put you in a box. And I'll try to exemplify it. I don't know if I know how I'm going to do that. If you know me a little bit, that's Cintia speaking, you know that, right? And especially if you know me and Ilan, you know that I love quizzes, love quizzes. And once I was on the internet I was doing nothing. And I came across this gender role test. And I started taking it. So if you look at this box here, this word cloud, you see that these are the words they included in this test. So what you were supposed to do, they would give you a sentence and you were supposed to say whether that would be like you, completely like you, unlike you, and completely unlike you. And that would give you whether you would be more masculine or more feminine. And I was taking the test and I was like, I'm sure I'm going to be a man. I'm absolutely sure I'm going to be a man there. And of course, that was my result. And then I decided to check whether that would be possible to manipulate the test. And I was completely able to manipulate it. As you could see, I could get like for 100% masculine, not 100% feminine. I never understood how, but it was much easier to get to 100% masculine than feminine. And I sent this test to many friends of mine. And the thing they did was they actually took the same test. They tried, did I send it to you?
No.
No?
No.
Because I sent it to many people.
Yes, I don't think so.
And
now you take it.
You'll take it later.
Yes.
And then you try to manipulate. Because the thing about taking the test, because if you want to take it, you just have to get the QR code here. And it is really fun because first you do it the way you would do. And then after that, choose whether would like to be a man or a woman and take it again. And you'll see how easy that would be to manipulate. But as we can't do it here, we're going to play some sort of a game. So we're going to try it together. Some people are on YouTube. Most people are on YouTube, I guess, right? So you can talk among yourself. I won't see you, but you will see me because I will stop sharing the screen for a second. And I'll show you some words. And you have to say whether that would be something related to a woman or to a man, okay? There are not so many words, just a few of them. And of course, I'll be giving you the answer immediately because as I cannot see you, it's quite weird to wait and expect what will come from you. So I'll stop sharing the screen now so then you can see me as long as I'm able to do that. Come on. Yes. Can you see me? Yes, I guess you can see me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so,
yes, I can see you.
So if you're on YouTube or anything, just you can put number 1 or 2 and you can discuss in the chat, okay? Use the chat to discuss. Unfortunately, I can't see it, but if the moderators are nice enough, they will print the screen, then we can see it afterwards. Not now, but afterwards, okay? And then you have to say whether you're a man, I'm a man or a woman, all right? So sentence number 1 is, I'm assertive. I would expect most people to say that I'm a man because men are supposed to be assertive. When women are assertive, we are actually seen as rude most of the time. Very rude women and angry. We are angry and rude. I'm affectionate. What would you say?
Women.
Why?
Because that's what we are supposed
That's
to do.
what we're supposed to do. We are
Yes.
supposed to show affection towards
yes.
everyone. We are very nice and kind all the time, right? No. Definitely not. Not me sometimes, right? I'm sympathetic. What would you say?
Me again, woman.
Yeah, of course. You're my
the only person here.
You're the only person here to
Yes.
talk to me. So at least I can pretend there's someone watching. Sympathetic, yes, that's usually for women, mostly because, again, we are supposed to understand how people feel. When you're at home, and we're supposed to take care of our families, our husbands' families, our husband's family, and everybody else. And we need to understand, and even our husband, well, I'm sorry, I don't have a husband, of course. I don't even want to. But it's still like, if you're married to someone, usually what happens is that a woman is supposed to understand the moments the men feel angry and upset and everything like that. I'm creative.
Men
are creative?
I think so.
But women are also very, actually, women are more supposed to be creative than men sometimes.
Really?
Because don't we work with decorations?
It's true.
Don't we do the hair, the nails, and all of the, we tend to create things, especially to find solutions, because men are supposed to dream about their lives, while we're supposed to find the solutions and create the possible ways to get there sometimes. But that would go for men and women. That's probably the ones I got like 67% for women. I'm ambitious.
It's men.
Of course, we're not supposed to be ambitious. We're supposed to get married, have kids, stay home, and take care of people, basically, right? It's been changing, of course. It depends on where you are. It's very important to men. It really depends on where we are. I live in São Paulo, it's one of the biggest cities in Brazil. So being ambitious for women in São Paulo is very common. But if you go to the north, for instance, of the north of Brazil, it might not be seen as something good. Actually, men might not feel like dating women if they're too ambitious. I'm dominant. I don't even need to say anything, do I?
No.
Because if you're a woman and you're dominant, please find your space. You're wrong. I'm competitive. What do you think?
Woman.
Women are competitive. Women are competitive towards other women.
Yes.
But in life and job and work, that's for
Men.
Games,
Yes.
that's for men. Because men are usually, they're supposed to be competitive. We are supposed to just take care of our lives and not.
I thought it was managed first, work and everything, but women are supposed to compete against each other.
Yes.
They say that you should dress up for another woman or something like this, and then that's what I thought too.
Yeah, that does make sense. But men are supposed to compete, and women, we are supposed to know how to lose and this kind of thing. I'm moody.
Woman.
Of course we are moody every day, especially now at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. I like children.
Woman.
That's women, and it's really interesting because I know lots of women who don't like children or don't want to have children. It's not that I don't like children, but children like me. I don't know why, but I can understand what happens sometimes. But I know lots of guys who love children and they love teaching children, and they have issues getting to become. It's really hard for them to become teachers in regular schools because people don't accept it. They think that men are not supposed to like children, and it's bizarre. So this was just some of the words. I'm gonna get back to sharing the screen because the thing is, so this is just a quiz, and a quiz you could just look at me and say, this is just a quiz, and how can I make sure what you're saying makes sense? And then of course, I decided to go into dictionaries because I think the way the dictionary defines something, the definitions they give there tells a lot about us and our society and everything else. So according to the dictionary, I researched 6 different dictionaries, 3 in English, 3 in Portuguese, so some of the most important ones we have in each country. And these are some of the findings. So definition, for the numbers of definitions, Funny thing, when you talk about woman, Oxford Dictionary has only one definition for woman. Why? So it can have from 1 to 13 definitions. While Michaelis and Hoyes have 13, but I'm going to show you some of them. While men, we have Oxford Dictionary has 4, so 1 for women, 4 for men, up to 13 again in Hoyes. Why is that how you say it? I never know how to pronounce the name of dictionary. You know, this is not supposed to be a Brazilian word, but it's not. So first of all, I would like to show some of the definitions when it comes to the adjectives. I'm just going to open it. I find it really interesting because definition number 1 is a male, so it's an adult male human being. All right, I agree with that. So they go for a young or tall man. He is a champion. The man is a genius. The second definition, he is a male employee. And the third one, it is not possible. Oh, yeah, you can see it here. Oh, no, it is not possible to see because of this Google Hangouts compartilhando sua tela. Oh, I can do that. Okay, thank you. They also go for the armed forces and things like that. So again, men, they are young, tall, they're champion, they're geniuses. Or they're member, they work. Have a look at the first 3 definitions, same dictionary, Cambridge dictionary. I'm not talking about any dictionary. I'm talking about Cambridge. Definition 1 is just like male, an adult female human being, but she's not young, tall, or genius. She's nice. She's a really nice woman. But I like these 2 examples here when they talk about feminism, the feminist examples. Women first got the vote and the first woman female president. Let's have a look at the second definition.
Wow.
Again, male employee, a wife or female sexual partner. Then the third one, armed force. Second one, women in general. Just women in general. Womankind, women folks. Okay, so can you see how different the definition shows? But then I want to get into these curiosities. This is one of the I like saying awfulest because it's so awful that I cannot even see most of the awfulest things I've seen in a dictionary in my life. I got to Michaelis, pointing out Michaelis is inside of wall, one of the most important sites we have in Brazil, one of the most important platforms. And I would like to first get you to look at definitions number 12 and 13. Number 12, effeminate men. Homem afeminado que tem modos, gostos, atitudes consideradas femininas. So this means, so if a man performs, does not perform as, in a way, as society would expect a man to perform, he becomes a woman. And number 13 is even worse, because if a man is homosexual and he likes to be penetrated, so he's passive in the sexual relationship, he's a woman. Isn't it obvious? Right? And I love this. Have a look at the expressions they have for woman. These are all of the expressions they have for woman. Mulher à toa, mulher de casa, mulher da rota, mulher da rua, mulher da vida, mulher da zona, mulher de amor, prostituta, 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 prostitute. We are prostitutes. Have a look at what they do for men. Number 1 for men, so men is humanity. Have a look at the expressions they have. So it's a police officer, homem da lei, homem da noite. So a guy that likes to go to bars and is a womanizer, he's actually, it is nice, according to the definition. He's not a prostitute. Homem da rua, homem do povo, so it's a folksman, right? An active individual. He's correct, he's honest. He is someone that deserves God, basically, homem de Deus. So men are God. That's why I chose this picture. While women, we're prostitute, according to the dictionary. And that shows a lot. And that shows what comes next. Why? This is some of the reasons. This is a little bit of what happened in our society, the way they construct the meaning of being a woman and being a man, that will follow us for a long time and follow us every day. Now I'm passing the word here.
Okay, so Bruna here, and then about everything that Cintia said, how does it affect us in terms of workplace? First of all, anytime a woman expresses the emotions, not anytime, but sometimes that we express emotions at the workplace, people just respond as such as like, oh, is this PMS? I mean, are those your hormones? Because we are supposed to express more emotions than men, and then if we do, it's a problem. So they ask if it's PMS. You don't have the right to be angry. Men have the right to be angry. We don't. So they 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 blame our hormones for us to being angry. And if we think of sexist words or phrases, there are so many. As Cintia showed in the dictionary, so there are so many. When we want, for example, to talk about a man who is not courageous, very courageous, we call him a word called that starts with P. That is the words for woman's sexual organ. So why would you call a man this? Doesn't make any sense. But then we use our sexual organ to say a man is not courageous enough. So doesn't make any sense. It means that we are somehow weak or something like this. And when we use the word, for example, CEO, it's a man. If it's a woman, we must say female CEO, female senator. So those are some of the sexist words or phrases that we are used to. And that's the way we call women, always a female first, because if it's a CEO, a senator is always a man. And women, they always feel unsafe, which is a problem. So the White House reports that women are less likely to be victims of violent crimes, but women are much more likely to be stalked, for example. So if you have a disagreement with someone in your work or something like this, women, they're afraid all the time. At the workplace, on the street, everywhere we are more afraid than men because we are more vulnerable, let's say. And there is always these words that we use to describe women, like Cintia said. So we are caring, we're warm, we are emotional, we are sensitive. So these traits, they are not bad necessarily, but when a woman performs a job that is normally performed by a man, it can become really harmful, because then you are the CEO, but you are emotional at the same time. So they shouldn't be bad adjectives, but they don't belong only to women. So this descriptive bias is a problem to us when it comes to work too. And women are very much interrupted while talking.
Never.
Never, yes. There is an extra R here, yes, in my interruption.
Oh yeah, an interruption. Yes, sure.
Triple R, because we are very much interrupted. And there is the example that you can find online about the Supreme Court. They studied this for 12 years, and then they said that 32% of interruptions are when women, let me just remember the data here. I wrote so many things here, now I got lost. Yes. 32% of interruptions were when women were speaking, and only 4% when were done by women. So men interrupt so much women while they're talking. And there is the famous mansplaining, when men try to explain something they already know, but then they go and they explain those things to you. So those are many things that happen, and we're so used that sometimes we don't even realize. It takes a while for us to realize that it's happening to us or at the places we work, and even to men to realize they're doing this, because it's something that is very incorporated in our society, at the workplace, and everything. Thank you. And there is this thing named as confidence issue and the gender confidence gap. It's believed that women, they don't feel so confident as men to do things, and it happens for many reasons. But when we need to pursue new challenges, it's more difficult for us to take risks. And it's very evident when applying for job and promotions. If we get a CV and we don't have, this is from Harvard Business Review, why women don't apply for jobs unless they are 100% qualified. Because if women aren't 100% qualified, they say, okay, they won't hire me. I'm not gonna even try. Men, what is the number? Do you guess?
1.1.
for men to be qualified so that they can apply for a job or
60%,
promotion.
isn't it?
It's 60%. So they are much, generally, they tend to be more confident than us. They tend to risk more. We are very worried about being cautious all the time, being very honest, and we tend to overestimate risk and underestimate ourselves, which is a huge problem. And women, they are more affected by the imposter syndrome. So we believe that we are a fraud or much worse than we really are. And those things, they happen because of many situations that we have faced all our lives. So it's very difficult to change, but we really need to try to be more confident, to go there and do the things the way we know how to do. But it's much more difficult to us, so we really need to try harder when it comes to doing those things.
Totally agree.
Would you like to say anything else? No?
No, just like because well, the men explaining things is something, and men interrupting. These are two of the most, and men gaslighting. That there's three expressions. Men gaslighting is when men actually put us down. So they say that they kind of compliment you, but just the idea is actually putting you down in a certain way.
It looks like a compliment, but it's not.
It's not,
It's
exactly.
not. Yes.
And the imposter syndrome, I guess it's one of the most important things. We've been talking a lot about it amongst our friends. And I guess the best thing to change this, we're going to talk about it later on, is having like great female friends as well, because we can empower each other.
Exactly.
And we've been doing that a lot.
Yes, yes. And I think Voices is a great place to do that.
Yeah,
to have this community. We have this WhatsApp group for women in which we try to empower each other and help and share things. So when we are afraid of something, we can share. And then if you have a good female friend, she can say, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. And also start mentioning names, but we're going to talk about it later on. Go for it.
Okay. And there is also, it's not so easy for women to become leaders because of the sexism at workplace, as I told you, this thing about the imposter syndrome, and also the family commitments. Because there is always this thing, oh, do I want to be a leader? Do I want to grow in my career, or do I want to raise a family? It seems that we cannot do both things together. Of course we can, and there are many women who do, but it's more difficult. The man is supposed to be working all day and getting home and having the dinner ready, and the woman works all day too, but then she needs to take care of the children, do homework with the children, and do those things. They are supposed to be done by women, not men. So it's very difficult for you to have time and money to develop professionally.
And also, if you actually decide to develop yourself professionally and actually get someone to take care of your kids, or saying that you're not going to do the cleaning or the cooking or anything, people might actually say bad things about you.
And say you're not a good mother,
a good
wife.
The other day, I don't remember exactly where, so I can't mention properly, but they say that in a job interview, they tell men to... one of the tips they give for men is to say that they have family, that they have kids and everything else. And in the beginning of a meeting as well, that it's nice for men to start talking about their families and their kids to show that they're caring and everything else. But when it comes to the woman, what happens is actually the opposite. They shouldn't say anything about family in a job interview, how much they care about their family. And in a meeting, if they start the meeting talking about their families, they'll tell they are weak, that you're caring. So can you see the different point of views? It is
because a man who works all day and still loves the family, is worried about and put families at first place. Wow, yeah. As
what a man.
Whatever a father does, say, oh, he's a great father because he does just the basic. And it is too much less than usually mothers do. But they say, oh, wow, they get to be a great father because they take children to school.
As we say, I always say, the future is feminine, in a way that we should stop trying to follow the male's features and characteristics of the male leadership in this way. So then we can talk about kids, because we have to be strong and assertive, but never rude. Be careful.
Yeah,
You know, so it's
true.
kind of complicated. So
Yes. And then what happens is that when you work all day long and then when you get home and then you still have to take care of some things at home, you help children with homework and everything, then you have lack of time for professional development. You cannot take an MBA and come back at 11 o'clock. But for sure, the men could do. Of course, it's a generalization based on what generally happens. Not that every family is this way, but many families are. And there is also the lack of money. Women, when they decide to pay English classes for the child or for themselves, they will choose children over them. So it's difficult for them to develop. And if they want to be a leader, they have to be parent later and leader earlier. If it's the opposite, it's very difficult. If you decide to be parent when you are at the top of a career, for example, is more difficult. So they keep postponing being a parent so that they can guarantee their careers. Men, they just don't have this problem. As Cintia said, it's okay for them to be a good father, a good husband. It's something that is well seen. For women, she's gonna get pregnant, and then I'll have many problems, and Cintia is going to talk about those things, yes. And there is this value for hours instead of outcome. So it is still valued so much how many hours women work. There is little flexibility. And men, they are judged by their results. If they don't stay from 8 to 5 at the office, but they bring results, they're not checking anything, supposedly. But women, if they need to take the kid to the doctor, it's a problem. Doesn't matter the results they bring. And they have fewer opportunities when compared to colleagues without children because of all the reasons we said. Because when you have a child, you need to take the child to doctor when the child is sick. So this is the fear of many employers, the child being sick. And also you have to go to school meetings and all those things. So those are things that women do, not men.
yeah, and one thing I would like to point out when talk about those are things that women do, not men, is that our society, the culture we live in, it is so close, it's so rooted in the fact that women are supposed to do those kind of things that I cannot even imagine what would happen if a man got at work and told his boss that they have to leave a little bit earlier to take their kids to school.
I think they'll say, wow, what a father.
No, I don't think they can do that.
They don't.
I think they would. Perhaps if they do that once or twice.
I think once or twice they are a great father. I've seen this happening for like taking the kid to the doctor or something. Oh, like paizão.
Yeah, it's always like the brilliant father.
The good father, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Yeah,
it's okay.
Okay. Oh,
and also when we talk about historical background, women weren't supposed to work. They were supposed to be married. And I don't know if you know, but I will just skip one. So there is no support system which enables flexibility without penalty. So there is no flexible. Of course, there are many companies that are bringing this, and we're going to talk briefly about some of them. It has been changing, but still, if there is something flexible, the woman will have problems. If she misses work a few times because of taking care of the child or something, this woman will have problems. There will be penalties. And the Brazilian laws, they favor sexism inside families. That's why I'm talking about historical background. And it only changed, like, now it's a little bit over 29 years ago. But women weren't supposed to have a CPF, which is a basic document for you to do anything. Now kids have CPF. When the kid is born, the kid, after 1 year, I don't know exactly when, but they have a CPF already. And women, around 30, 31 years ago, they couldn't have one. It meant that they couldn't have an individual checking account, for example. They should have this with a man. If you received a heritage, for example, there should be a man who would be responsible for that. You couldn't access the money so easily, and you couldn't make movements with this money because you didn't have this document named CPF. So it only changed like 30 years ago. It's just yesterday.
Yeah, it's younger than us.
Yes. So when we were born, that's the way things happen.
Yeah,
with our
that's
parents,
the way it
for
was with my
example.
mom or your mom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my mother was married, but if she weren't, she would have to depend on her father or her brother to do the things, especially related to bank and those things. And there is maternity leave too. Having her first child, and the man said, okay, I will hire you. I know you just got married, so if you get pregnant, you will resign. They had this agreement, and when she talks about it, she really doesn't see that as a problem. She thinks it was okay. They had this deal. They said, okay, you're getting married now, probably you have a kid, and so, but if you get pregnant, you resign. And she did that. She thought it was okay, just normal.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that hurts because
Yes.
that's true. And I'm gonna get the lead here because you said that it's okay, that it's just normal. Because now I'm gonna talk about a little bit about law versus culture. Because when I designed this workshop, this one, not the one with Bruna, but because this is a mixture of two. It was 2 years ago in the Six Symposium in 2017. I started research. Did lots of research on the law, and what I discovered was that so the law does exist, but culture might be a little bit above the law, and this is the problem we have. And I'm going to show you some data. Not as much as I would love to, but we don't have the time for that. It should be something much longer to show everything and everything else. But I'm going to start with moral harassment and sexual harassment. When Bruna was talking about subtle sexism in the workplace, most of the time she was talking about moral harassment. She also mentioned a little bit of sexual, but mostly moral harassment. And the biggest difference between them is that moral harassment is something we don't see because we tend to normalize. Because your mother was morally harassed when the guy said they're supposed to resign, for example, and or when people put you down, when they say you're rude, that you shouldn't be that assertive. Sexual harassment, I don't have to explain. Everybody knows what that is. So, as we're talking about Brazil and we're in Brazil, the law here is in Portuguese, but I'll try and translate a little bit of it in case there's someone that can understand it. And funny thing, as I said, moral harassment is something that you can see and that it's normalized. And then if you look at the law, you will discover that actually there is no law for that. Basically, this is so basically there's nothing that would say that something could happen to someone that is morally harass someone. And there are some public positions in which that can protect a little bit, but you'll see that that's not exactly what happens. Differently, of course, sexual harassment, we do have a law, and this law says that you may be arrested for up to 2 years. You can be made redundant immediately in case it happens. And so there is a law that protects women from sexual harassment at the workplace. However, this is data I got from the United Nations, and they're talking about women being sexually harassed at the workplace in many different countries. I just got some of them, but yeah, there's something that is repeated here. So as you can see, only 8% of men answer yes to have been sexually harassed at the workplace, while 26% of women have also answered yes. This is similar to the number they have in the United States. And what I like is this, it's made that 1 in 4 women have experienced some sort of undefined sexual harassment. I just told you that you can be arrested. If you can be arrested in Brazil, of course you can be arrested in the United States as well. But still, you got 1 in 4. In Australia, they got that 2 out of 5 women, which goes by 39%, aged 15 and older, 15 and older, have been in the work, have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace during this period. And we got in common almost 4 out of 5 cases, they were sexually harassed by men. As they say here, 79%. This is a repetition. I got something wrong, but that's okay. I like this one. This one is brilliant. Remember what I said about Brazil, that if you're morally harassed in public positions, and you work for public positions, a public servant, perhaps you might be protected. Have a look at this. 82% of women in parliamentarians, I never know how to say this word, who participate in a study conducted by the Interparliamentary Union in the 39 countries of our 5 regions reported having experienced some form of psychological violence, remarks, gestures, and image of sexist and humiliating sexual nature made against them, or threats and or mobbing while serving their terms. They work for the parliament. They cited social media as the main channel through which such psychological violence is perpetrated. Nearly half of those surveyed, 44%, reported having received death, rape, assault, or abduction threats towards them or their families. 65% had been subject to sexist remarks, primarily by male colleagues in parliament and from opposing parties as well as their own. So it doesn't matter who you're talking to. The chances are you be either morally or sexually harassed, and nothing's going to happen. And you know why nothing's going to happen? Because it's normalized by both men and women. We don't report it because it's just police don't take it seriously. The police, in Brazil, they found that 86% of women surveyed had been subject to harassment or violence in public, and worryingly, 84% reported have been sexually harassed by the police. If you were sexually harassed by the police, how can you go to the police and report sexual harassment? Study find that 75% of workplace harassment victims experienced retaliation when they spoke up. This means, so if a woman is being sexually or morally harassed at work, at the workplace, usually what happens is they just don't say anything. And they won't say anything because they're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of not being taken seriously. They might believe that they are overreacting, which is even worse.
They might believe it's their fault, or people might judge as their fault.
Exactly. You know, and
you wear this way.
That's because of what we're wearing. But you shouldn't have sent a picture. If you sent a picture and he's spreading this picture, that's your fault.
It's your fault.
You know?
Exactly.
And
that's the reason too. It's our fault at the end.
Or it's just because that's the way men are.
Yeah.
Men can control. They can control
themselves,
their sexual desire, their hormones. Exactly. You know, exactly. Like animals. Again, I really like this quote. 84% of Brazilian women reported being sexually harassed by the police. This tells a lot. You know, and then going a little bit into this maternity and paternity leave. Do you have an idea of how it works in your country? Last time I did it, I actually connected many different countries. This time I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to do something completely different. But the thing is, in 2017, I did a survey using Google Forms, and it is in Portuguese. But again, I'll be saying things in English because it was not supposed to be answered by English teachers only. And the first interesting results, because the name of the research is, it should be here, but of course it's not. Because, you know, but it's called here. That's how. Filhos e a vida profissional. So, profissional. I mixed everything. Kids, so children in your professional life.
Yes.
The first important data I have here is that I got 159 responses. From 159 responses, mostly only women responded. And I said that I wanted men as well to respond, but they didn't. And I'm going to show you something very quickly because we don't have much time. So lots of people responded, but what I want to show is this. Oh, come on.
I think you need to go
to the summary, right?
To the summary, because there are individual responses.
Yeah. Summary here. And so first of all, talking about lots of women, data, And first thing, I asked people if they knew the law for maternity leave. One would be for completely disagree, and 5 completely agree. So most people do know the law for women, but for men, paternity leave, not that much. So that means that shows a lot also. Like people don't actually think about it that much, so they don't know a lot about it. Although most people do know. But then I ask whether they feel protected by those laws. And as you can see, the figures here, they don't actually feel. Sometimes they don't even know whether their opinion about it. But they do choose the work and the schedule, the time. They usually work because of kids, as you can see. And am I able to dedicate my time for extra training and professional development? Have a look at how many women said no, they aren't, and how many women said yes.
As I said, they're supposed to be doing other things in their free time, not studying.
It is funny because one of these women, she said that her kids are now grown up. So, and she said that she had answered it a few years ago, her replies would be completely different. They don't miss lots of days of work, which is good, but English teachers, most of them are also. And would I deny a job offer because of my kids? Yes. Most of the women would do that. But why am I showing this data? Because the thing is, again, there is a law. Everybody knows that there is a law that goes for, oh, sorry, no, don't do it, not now. Yeah, there is a law. I'm not gonna read the whole thing as I did before, but there is a law that goes for women. So if you're a woman, you are allowed to have 3 months of 120 days of maternity leave, and you're paid. So it's a paid maternity leave, differently from other countries like United States or Australia, where it's not paid. And they cannot be fired until the baby gets to complete 6 months. So they have to be there at work. They cannot be made redundant at any time. They need to have time to feed the kid and everything else. But that's not exactly what happens. I just Googled it. Fui demitida grávida. This is page 5. Uh, and I actually chose page 5, although you cannot see what's there, because there are lots of cases. And if you just Google it, have a look at how many sentences, how many replies will come here, because it happens a lot. Lots of women are fired when their boss discovered they're fired, they're pregnant, right after coming back from the maternity leave, or a few months after coming back from the maternity leave. And that doesn't happen in Brazil only. This is also in England and in many different countries. Maternity leave discrimination means 54% of women lose their jobs each year because they get pregnant. You know, this is just unfair in a certain way. And in the European Union, I got this data to show you that it is considered unlawful. This means you can't do it.
But still
that happens. And while in Brazil, fortunately, we have only 5 days. Some companies nowadays you can have a month if you're part of Empresa Cidadã and things like that. And some companies have been changing that. But in my point of view, that will never ever change. The problem, the issues we have at work will never ever change unless there is a mandatory paternity leave in Brazil, as well as there is in some other countries like Finland and in Germany and many other countries. But unfortunately, we don't have time for that. So we're going to go from some of the local and global initiatives
quickly
we have nowadays. Yeah, I know. That's okay, because we started a little bit after that. Yeah. We have time. That's okay. Should we go for the companies first and then we end with the video then? I think, or I would like to go for the video.
I think the video.
The video? The video is
because
not
we're talking about.
Because I lost the video. Oh, the video was supposed to be here. Oh, it is here. Okay, cool. So here, first of all, it's a very short video. So the best countries for women have 4 things in common. Could you think about what would be the 4 things they have in common? Let's see. Okay. So in these countries, if you're a woman, you can actually have kids. You won't lose your job because the country is prepared for people having kids. So that's the difference, you know. We should, the whole, the politicians, everybody should be worried about that. But if you don't have any woman in the parliament, how can you do that? Yes. Because men won't think about it, unfortunately.
Because it's something so natural, having kids. So we should be prepared, yes. I would like to talk about some local initiatives, starting with voices. So I started talking about this because of an invitation from the women from Voices, and it was great because we really back each other up, and it's a very nice initiative because of the events, because of the WhatsApp group that we have, and because of many things that we do together. And those are companies that what they have in common basically is to give much more flexibility for women. So when they have babies, for example, some of those companies are not to talk about each one because we are running out of time. But in common, what they have more flexibility. Sometimes they have a longer maternity leave. Some of them have. Sometimes they have like 1 day per week in which the woman can work from home, can do some kind of home office, so that they can take care of other things. They have some things related to women in leadership. They have networking moments. They have coaching, mentoring, and those kind of things. Some of them establish that when there will be a new opening, there should be women running for the position, any kind of position, including the IT company. So it's something very interesting. So those are some things that are being done in Brazil. And one of them that is in Alphaville, they said that it was very difficult to get women to go to Alphaville because if they lived in São Paulo, Alphaville is like a little bit far from downtown São Paulo. And then what they did was having these women working once a week as a home office. And when these women left the job, they started collecting data to discover why women were leaving the job. And then they tried to give women more flexibility, and now they have more women as leaders. So it's something very interesting.
Which company is that?
1 second, I will find. Philips, yes. And then there's some other global initiatives that you can take a look, and especially, so he for she, there is a page on Facebook, you can check it, and they have some initiatives, and there are many, there are forums, this W20, there are 20 female leaders here. I will say that because there are only women, but the last one wasn't in Berlin.
The last one was in Berlin. Oh, no, it wasn't.
The one before was in Berlin.
Yeah, that was one was 2017, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then because I used this for Six Symposium too. Yeah. That was when I was invited. So
which is fantastic, the story about this one.
But it's very interesting because they really write a document, and they take it to the government from the countries, and they have to try to make it happen. So they have like a commitment among these 20 women.
I remember two of them. One of them was like getting more women in technological areas, yes. Scientific, and the other one was getting more women in the parliament as well, also part of the politics.
Yes, so they write this document and they have this commitment to change something. And when it comes to, are we going to talk about Eve?
Yeah, we can, sure.
No, you can talk. Do you know
about Eve?
Yes.
I don't know much about Eve, but they talk about equality in ELT.
Yes.
But not only gender equality, but also nativism and native and non-native speakers as well.
Then we can have more space in presentations and everything. So we should have a balanced lineup of speakers, not only men.
I forgot her name. I really like that woman. She's fantastic. The one that started it. And she even presented for Voices once. I'm terrible with names, but there's this woman, and Claire will kill me when she knows I forgot her name. But anyways, she was the one who started counting. She was doing maths. She started getting all of the conferences in Brazil and everywhere in the world.
Nicola Prentice. No?
Nicola Prentice, yeah, Nicola
Yes,
Prentice.
I was
Thank
there.
you.
Yes,
Yes,
I saw.
yeah,
I saw this presentation.
yeah, Nicola Prentice as well. And then she started like doing maths and counting the amount of women and men in head positions. I mean, in the conferences, because there are lots of women presenting, but not plenary speakers.
Yes.
Or in panels and things like that. So
and when you think about like the suggested reading for courses such as CELTA, Cambridge CELTA or DELTA, most books are written by men.
By men.
Most.
Exactly.
If you think, and she said, okay, think of the the most common speakers that you like to see, and then most of them are men.
Yeah.
So this is something that they have tried to be changed.
Yeah, and this is one of the things we should start doing now. There is also a text by Natalia Guerreiro when she talks about when she mentions this thing that when someone asks us for a name, we need an expert in pronunciation. Usually, the first names that come to our minds are male names because that's what's normal and that's the standard mostly. So we should start change it is like changing the mindset to make sure we will talk about women also.
Yes, because it's very common to think about pronunciation and then you think about a big name that has been a big name for many years, but there are many other people doing the job. So we need to allow ourselves to think about other people, to have a brainstorming among women, and to have there was a list with suggestions of speakers. We need to continue with those initiatives so that we can have women talking too.
And never so bad mouth women. Just
because for example from daily life, not from professional life necessarily, but I think it can show when a man is married and then he goes out with a girl and then he has an affair, and then the woman gets sometimes to forgive the husband, but then she badmouths and calls the girl, like the woman, names. So who is wrong? Who was married? So
and when it comes to work, what I usually say is also, for example, when we say, "Oh, it's so hard to work with women," right? That pisses me. That really gets me annoyed in a way. Just like, seriously, you're a woman and you're saying that it's hard to work with you. Because that's what men say.
So that's what we do from our personal lives. That's what happens. And then say, and then they say a bad name and something like this. And then it comes to work together. And then people say that we compete among each other at work, that you should dress up at work because other women will see you and these kind of things. We must really stop doing those things. And then here we are talking about some things that we can do, because we cannot change what our company does if you're not the owner of the company. So it's very difficult to implement changes and change laws, for example. What can we do? But what can we do? Like starting today, what can we really do? I think one of the things is using double standards. For example, for a man, it's okay to do this. For the woman, it's not okay. So we cannot have this kind of double standards. So for the man, because it's very rare for him to pick up the kids at school, say, "Oh, that's okay, what a great father." And for women, "Oh my God, again." So we cannot do this. We cannot praise sexism too, like when a man and also think harassment is flattering. I'm just going down a little bit, because sometimes a man is flirting with a woman and I'm flattered because my marriage boss is flirting with me.
No,
it's not flattering. This is harassment. This is sexual harassment. So we have to be careful about that. Also, using biased language, be careful about the way you refer to women and men. We have to try to avoid having those kind of discriminating attitudes and bad-mouthing women, as Cintia said. And we have to be careful about teaching sexist lessons when you're using our course books, in which the wife is at home taking care of the kids and the husband is at work. These kind of things, they are very common still nowadays, and we have to try to adapt.
A cooking lesson at school, and then you say, "Oh, man, the boys will bring the the soda, because
Yes.
boys can cook. They're really clumsy. They can't do that
Yes, in
themselves.
any kind of party or something that people are supposed to bring food, boys will bring soda and girls will bring
And they will cook basically,
Yes.
because they are not, they can't do that. We are totally out of time already because it's already 11, but it's just the one last thing I would like to say, because we have already mentioned the big names.
Yes,
Sorry.
okay.
Is that it's not here, but that's something I'm thinking and I've been thinking about, that it's now time. We've been talking a lot about women, and people have been developing women and organizing, helping women on doing things, but it's now time to start talking to men. Men need to understand that some of those attitudes are not cool. Some of those attitudes cannot be accepted. If you see a picture of a girl, that a man shows you a picture of someone that works with you, of a woman that works with you, this is harassment, and you should point out. Men should start discussing their toxic masculinity, because that happens every single day. And if they don't start it, and if you don't start talking to them, I don't see that changing. I really don't see that changing.
Yes.
Would you like to say anything else? No. I think we can't say anything else because we don't have more time, actually. There are lots of references here. If you want to have them, and if you want to talk to us, just send us an email. And we always remember, empowered women empower other women as well. And that's what we're trying to do here,
Yes,
right?
I love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
And I have to, I don't know how I stopped. Oh, yeah, I remember now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Oh, so you're there already. So you stopped sharing my screen, right?
Yes, you can go back to your beautiful faces.
Oh, yeah, we're here. I don't know.
No, we are not.
Oh, now we
yes,
are.
now
Yes,
we are.
good.
Yes.
Hello. That was
Hello.
really good. That was really good. And it was good for me because, like, imposter syndrome, for example, that's something that my friends have been helping me deal with. So I do believe in the empowered women empower other women. So thank you so much for the talk. That was really good. So let's see if we have any questions or comments. When, sorry?
No worries, just go.
Let's see if we have any comments. So when we had the quiz, a lot of people participated. So you can see it on YouTube later, actually, on the comments. Everybody was participating. Lucia participated, Leticia, Tiago. So it was a really interesting talk, and everybody was participating. So we have some comments actually that were happening while you were giving the talk, while were you giving the webinar. And for me, the most interesting one was Kleber's comment. It's a friend of mine, and he said that he has a hard time being seen as a teacher for kids in one of his jobs, because that was when we were talking about being affectionate, being sympathetic, being features of personality of men and women, and he made a comment about that. So I thought it was really interesting that we can't really see, not we, but society can't really see men as being a teacher for kids. So what do you have to say about that?
Okay. Okay. That's really what happens because of all those things. We need to train to change it as leaders, as coordinators. I'm academic director of my school. Cintia is a coordinator. We need to change that.
Yeah, but it's not so hard, not so easy, because as I said, that's cultural, you know. That's
and there
that's
are parents who will complain. It's not only about the school, I think, but it's about parents.
Yes.
Many sexist parents sometimes come to us and say something.
That's what I always say. Sexism is so bad that it gets on everybody's ways, including their ways, the man's ways, and they don't even see it.
Yeah.
You know, and they keep on with the same position, and they cannot get the job. Sometimes they might be bad mouth for being kind sometimes, and it is just something we should talk a lot.
Sometimes they can't be ourselves either, because they're supposed to play a role.
Yes, definitely. That's what we do all the time. We always play roles, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But it affects us too.
We have another, not really a question, but more of like, what would you give, like, what would you say, or what kind of tips would you give for men to kind of fight this sexism in the workplace? What the men in the workplace can do for women? That is from Thiago, actually.
Well, first of all, I guess they shouldn't treat us as someone that is weaker than them. That's the first thing, you know. I've had men yelling at me. I've had men telling me that I'm wrong all the time, and I'm sure they wouldn't do the same if their boss was a man, you know. And I've had men saying, being really nasty somehow to me sometimes. And again, as I said before, I think men should start thinking about their toxic masculinity and the way they actually talk, the way they behave towards women, and they should learn how to respect us as
And
much as
listen to
and
us.
listen to what we are saying to the end.
Yes.
Because they keep interrupting and saying that that's not true, that they are not wrong, and that we are wrong. We are always wrong. I'm always wrong. The day the guy actually yelled at me, I was like, what? Seriously? I'm sure he would never do that to a man, ever.
I have a business partner who is a man, and depending on the person we need to talk to, and then I say, just you go, you talk.
It's
because
easier.
people respect him more than they do to me. It's so sad, but it's easier. Sometimes I don't want to fight it either. Sometimes I say, oh, you just go, you talk to this person.
And I think that it goes for everything, not only for women, but LGBT issues and everything else. If you see a joke, a sexist joke being made, just don't laugh at it. Tell your friend, your male friend,
it's not appropriate.
that this is not appropriate, that they cannot say it. If you see a man being rude towards a woman just because they're men, they interrupt a woman, just tell them that. As I said about the picture, if another man is spreading women's picture, showing a woman's picture, if a woman sends you a picture, that's because for some reason they felt they could trust you. And if you're showing it to other men, the other men should look at you and say, why are you doing that?
Yes.
You know, you can't do it. The moment while they don't start doing it, nothing's going to change. That's the truth. That's how I feel. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. So let's see. Lucia commented on Wonder Woman, right in the behind you, Cintia. She said it was amazing. It was really cool, really cool. And let's see. We have. Let's see. Lucia asked a question actually. How can we react back in an effective way to sexism? I guess that's what she means. Many times people would only answer, oh, you're a feminist. Mm.
Oh, you're feminist? Yes, I am. Thank you. Well, I don't know. It's difficult. That's a difficult question. How do you react?
It's difficult.
It is difficult. I think I try to breathe deeply and I really connect to myself, not to say anything very rude sometimes because it's
if
really
you're
hard
rude,
for me.
it's the outburst of
I try to
that
be.
I'm talking.
I should be calmer as my dear friend here. I'm not that calm, and it's just like I have to walk and sometimes because it is hard. And one thing I learned that I have to do most of the time is to show numbers and figures and research and everything else. So when I'm trying to say something, the man does not listen to me. I say, I'm not talking because I feel like that way.
Facts.
There are facts, there's this, and I show research and I show numbers and I show things. So that's we have to know a little bit more sometimes and do the research because then when we speak, we show that it is not just our voices. There,
Sometimes I don't answer to that immediately when it happens.
Yeah.
I get kind of prepared and then I Because sometimes when I speak,
That's future me.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but if I speak like the spur of the moment, sometimes I'm very rude too.
Yeah.
You don't believe it, but I am. I can be
I know
really
you
rude. You know, yes, I can be really rude. So let's say, and I am very assertive, and I'm called bossy.
Are you?
Yes.
You're so sweet.
Yes, many people call me bossy.
Yeah.
And then, but I try not to answer at the moment sometimes.
If you're called boss, imagine me, because you're always smiling.
You know, I'm called bossy. So sometimes I try not to talk about this at the moment, and then I talk about this later. And then the person, okay, but this topic is over. But then I said, no, but I want to talk about it.
And I also think that one thing we should do always is talk to our friends. Because sometimes when we see ourselves in those kind of situations, we get so, it is so surprising that we don't know how to react. So the moment, I usually text Bruna.
Yes.
Bruna, you don't know what happened to me at work today. And then she's like, what? And then we keep talking for a while. Because that will help us like to put ourselves together again. First realize whether that was really sexist or not. Or in...
Yes.
Yeah, so Bruna and Ilan are the ones that actually listen to me all the time when I get in those kind of situations.
We have this WhatsApp group, and then we exchange ideas and support each other. I think it's important for us to do this more often.
Yeah. I hate the word bossy, or the Portuguese version, mandona. I hate when people call me that. That's terrible. Okay. Let's see. We have more comments, more questions. Let's see. Okay, so Rodrigo actually makes a comment here saying men must be feminists too. As a teacher, we must avoid at all costs language that might lead students to see them as different. So what do you think about that? About gender neutral language in class? What do you think about that?
I think it's important to change.
Well, I didn't understand the end of it. Men as family must be feminist too.
And avoid language that would make girls and boys different or something like this.
Yeah, sure. That's what we were saying. Like men should start doing their own part of it. No, can do
if they do, it's a great help. If they do too, if they're all together, because I really think it affects everyone. So if you're all together, we can really have a better place.
And the thing is, we do use expressions we shouldn't as well. And I like, for example, when I'm talking to Ila, because me and Ila, we're a little bit more similar when it comes to our mood and the way we react to those kind of things. And it's funny because sometimes I say something and she's like, you cannot say that. This is not a good thing to say. And I do the same thing to her sometimes. And then we're like, oh, yeah, that's true. I haven't thought of it. And then we keep talking and deconstructing all of these things that come with us, that are inside of us. And when we try to do the same with men, they get upset and they start defending themselves like it's not all men. The not all men sentence are very common. And the thing is, I know you're not a bad person. And sometimes I really like the guy. But the thing is, why don't you just listen and try to notice the things that are supposed to change? As I always say, if you have never in your life changed it and stopped using an expression you used to, this means you're not aware of everything around you because you're not deconstructing yourself daily as we are supposed to do, because this is a daily process. It's not that I was born feminist. I discovered it, I learned it, and I learned every day.
Sometimes I say something, say, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And I feel very bad. But
I did it now when I called you sweet. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
It's because we are, I don't know, it's very difficult to change, but we need to start, and we need men to start doing this too.
Yeah, just listen and notice. Perhaps many things will change.
Yeah. Well, change is necessary. So I think that's the only thing we can definitely agree, men and women, we can agree on that. We need change, right? Let's see. I think we don't have any other comments or questions. Just one last comment from Chi, that he's saying that deconstruction is an ongoing process. It takes a lifetime. That's true. I totally agree with him. I think you both agree as well.
Effort.
Time and effort.
It's not only
Yes.
time, but it's also effort to be
Yeah.
aware of what you're to raise awareness, and then to start kind of thinking about those things and reflecting on what you're saying and your attitudes too. So it's time and effort, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for being with us on this Sunday to talk about empowering women and how empowered you are and how you help other women to empower themselves. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
and any other comments you want to finish your talk with?
Happy birthday, Thiago.
Happy birthday to you.
I was just about to say that. I just wanted to tell everyone that today is our coordinator's birthday, Thiago's birthday. So happy birthday. We love you. And thank you for all the work.
Yes.
Yeah. So happy birthday. And just to finish off,
Thank
I want
you.
to invite everyone to attend Natalia Afonso's talk next Sunday at 10 a.m. again. So we have like 2 webinar series to talk about women and women talking to women and to everyone else to understand a little bit what is to be a woman in the workplace, what is to be a woman in society. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you again.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the
Thank you for the
invitation one more
invitation.
time.
And thank you, C, for having me to join.
Yeah. I was sure it was a great idea. That was my genius idea of the year.
Thank you. Because Cintia was the one who was invited, not me.
But then I
And then she
invited her
invited
to
me,
come
yes.
with
So
me
thank you
because
very
I
much
thought
for
we
the
could do something
invitation.
much better together.
Thank you.
No, we were lucky to have you too. So thank you, Cintia, for inviting Bruna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone, and see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.